It's 4 o'clock on a Wednesday. You know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. Woohoo! And thank you, fake audience. Thank you, fake band. And let's see who's in the chat room. Martin Gravel, Dan Weber, Darren Moss, Ariana, Rick Cabot Podmore, hello Quarantini Boppers, boom, Darren Fletcher, Dean Turner, El Raso Emil, Alex Dillon, Songs from a Headband, Akira Canyon, Ron Kajawa, hello, driving, well I hope you're only listening, Ron, Greg Carroza, Andre Stepanian, Spiritual, Nick Monday, no it's Wednesday, Nancy Kalel, hello you guys, how are you? I almost didn't make it over here. I was in the kitchen eating potato salad and I went, oh, it's 4 o'clock. I better get over there. Gregory Vorb, John Hemingway. He says, hey, good videos recently. What do you mean recently? All the time. Thank you for saying that. Rob Bowker, it's nice, some new names in there. Maybe you guys have been lurking and haven't been in the chat room, but it's nice to see new faces, or, well, kind of new faces. Peter Rahill, hello. TJ Mackay, or Mackie, I'm not sure which. Lou Lewis. Okay. Actionable advice. John, which one was it? Well, I mean, they should all have some actionable advice, but hey, Glenn, let's. Ruben Walton, hello. Well, first and foremost, I want to say Peter Rahill's pounding it early today. Got the 11th like. Hello, Edmund. I hope you guys, or no, I want to say thank you for turning out yesterday for Bria's goodbye party. We had a really nice time with the staff out in the backyard. Everybody wearing their masks. My wife was just telling me we surprised Bria. She had no idea that was going to happen. And yesterday we had the staff line up on the side of our house, and they were all wearing masks, of course. And Deb said that our next door neighbor, a really nice lady that we get along well with, came out of her house and was like, what the heck's going on with all those people wearing masks on the side of your house? I think it scared her. Anyway. Oh, yeah. The neighbors now know the Lascos have a bunch of unusual friends that wear masks. But who doesn't wear a mask nowadays? Hello, Pete Mason. Anyway, so we will miss Bria, but she's technically like not working, but she really is working for the next couple weeks till the end of the month. And then I think I mentioned yesterday that for some period of weeks after that, she'll be working remotely and part-time from, I'm not sure if she's going to Kentucky first or Indiana first. I think Indiana first. So she will be working to making outbound calls. Actually, while we're on that subject, I want to tell you guys, if you get our emails, make sure that you've whitelisted us. Ariana can probably tell you better than I can. I know that you can just drag an email to your, I don't know, there's an easy way to do it and a less easy way. Ariana, can you type in and tell them how to whitelist? Because we're going to start making sure every single one of our members is whitelisted. Because it's surprising how many people pay for taxi and then say, yeah, I haven't gotten any listings from you guys in months. Well, that's because everything's in your spam folder because you didn't whitelist us. And because the fact that we send emails pretty much every day, I think Gmail in particular thinks, I wonder if they're spamming people. We actually get a really good open rate, believe it or not, from our members. Well, that's believable. But there are still some that just don't get the emails because they're going to spam. Alex Dillon says, what is whitelist? Whitelisting means that you've added taxi music news in your direct box. That means that every one of your emails from us will all go to your inbox versus your spam folder or your promotions folder. Here we go. This would mean that you need to contact your email provider and ask them to whitelist any emails from us at musicnews.taxi.com. That way they don't block our emails. Now, they actually don't need to contact their email provider because really, I mean, trying to reach out to Gmail wouldn't work all that well. Ariana, can you post a link to the place that we've got, the explanation of how to whitelist? That way you guys, after the show's over today, you can just click the link. It's really easy. Yeah, I would imagine that all you guys are pretty much, you guys are regulars. You're hardcore taxi people. So, see, Joseph Alonso says his goes into promotion. If you just drag it from promotion into your inbox, and then it'll ask you, I believe, it'll say, do you want us to treat all emails from this sender the same as this? And you click yes, and then you're done. I just asked Bria, oh, wait, that was yesterday. Yeah, you can unspam it. You can tell it to unspam it, but if it asks you, would you like us to treat all emails from this sender, and then you say yes, then you should be good to go. But we have a much more in-depth explanation. So there's the whitelisting speech. Nick Monday, I'm new with Taxi. Well, welcome aboard Taxi TV's Quarantini happy hour. Yeah, we do these Tuesday through Friday, at least during quarantine times, just because I was home alone for like 7 weeks, and many of these folks are home alone, so we would just hang out. It's like going to a pub, but, well, I was going to say, I don't drink much, but apparently some of the other people watching the show do. It's a long-held tradition with Taxi TV viewers that they're either eating or drinking while I'm busy working over here. So anyway, that's that. In the business for 5 decades. Sucka. Well, congratulations on that. Wow. I'm right behind you, probably like 43 years or something like that. Or actually, no. I started either 74 or 75, so whatever that is, like 45 years. Peter Rahill's having a wine cooler, just keeping hydrated. Yeah, sure. Whose idea was it to do Quarantinis? I think it was mine, although I take credit for everybody's ideas. No, I think it was mine. Michael, I just dragged a taxi email into primary and it worked, just like I said. So, yeah, great. That was Darren Fletcher that said that. Martin Gravel says, many dispatch listings are very interesting, so I think I will upgrade. Okie doke. Nick Mundy came to L.A. in 1985. I came out in 88. Ooh. Cass is having Sauvignon Blanc with melon peach juice. That actually sounds really good. You can also add our email address, musicnews@taxi.com, to your email contacts, and then mark one of our emails under more as not spam. So in the more thing, I think on the left side, you'll see not spam in a pull-down menu. Nick Monday, 10 years of publishing deals. And then, you want them to all go to your primary inbox. So we're on a mission to get every single one of our members to do that. I will tell you that Bria and my wife, starting sometime probably right after July 4th weekend, are going to start making outbound phone calls. So if you see an inbound phone call coming in from Taxi, please answer it and tell my wife how important I am in your life so that I can be important in her life as well. Now, it'll either be Bria or Deb calling just to say, hey, want to make sure you're whitelisting us. And as we've just seen here, some people go, I'm not really sure what that is. And they will send you a link. It is hurting Cat's Cats. Did Bria quit? Yeah, I mean, Bria's getting married. You know, we tried to talk her out of it. We tried kidnapping her fiance. I offered him cash to forget about the whole thing and call it off, but none of that worked. So that young lady is leaving Taxi. She's graduating from Taxi High and moving back temporarily in the near future to Indiana. Then she's going to get hitched, and then they're going to move to Kentucky. And they're going to grow bluegrass in their front yard, and they're going to raise horses. No, actually, he's an attorney. Oh, and Gmail's on the right side of the email. Click on the three dots, right. The three dots on top of each other. Sounds suspicious. That's the more section of each email. See, I personally do not like the Gmail interface. I find it to be clunky and non-intuitive. Maybe, no, never mind. Michael's idea. Jesse J. Peck is bone dry today. Couldn't make it in town. Have to use up the cough syrup. Yeah, I heard. I remember Bria mentioned that her fiance was in the chat yesterday. Great to hear about her career. Andre's got 14 pending submissions. Keep it coming. Yay. All right. So that's that. Yeah, you know, I've got to say, in the 28 years Taxi has been around, Bria is definitely one of the most popular staffers amongst other staffers. And she's a very bright, pretty fearless young lady, and did a lot of great stuff while she worked for us. And we will really, really miss her. Gmail is a pain trying to figure it out. I know, it really is. You would think that, you know, Gmail, Google, of all people, they could figure out, if they could make the Gmail interface as simple as the Google interface, then it would be really awesome. All right, what else? Oh, I know what I want to tell you about. I want to tell you why my hands smell like manure. Excuse me, if the guy watching thinks I slurped that too loud, I'm sorry. I was actually thinking about eating celery on air today just to upset him. Excuse me, there's my rock star burp of the day. Manure stories. Okay. So, since the gophers have largely been relocated, although I do have one active little guy who has evaded the relocation devices on about 3 occasions right now, but I'm going to get him. I am going to relocate that gopher. So anyway, I got a little bored not having, I still go out and look for new gopher mounds every day because I enjoy relocating them a lot. And so a week ago, 2 weeks ago, Deb and I were at the Do It Center, and I said, you know what, let's buy some tomato plants and grow our own tomatoes. So we bought some tomato plants and we bought some squash plants, and one of the tomato plants in particular, that was the largest of the 3 we bought and in a bigger container, really started taking off, and it's already got 3 actual tomatoes on it, and a bunch of flowers, which if you've ever grown a tomato know that when the flowers bloom, that means the tomato is coming where the flower used to be. So the plant that's doing the best, I took the 2 smaller ones and planted them in ground the other day. Hopefully the gophers, I read beforehand, gophers are not that fond of tomato plant roots, although if they're really hungry, they will in fact eat them. Hello, Jan. Welcome to the big show. And then we had one up on the patio that was in a fairly large container, but it was growing so quickly and sprouting flowers and tomatoes that I thought, man, oh man, I need to put that sucker in a bigger pot. So Deb was at the Do It Center today and she picked up a bigger pot, and I was transferring it from one pot to another, as we farmers are prone to do. And I was scooping the soil out of the potting soil out of the bag into the bigger pot, and now my hands smell like pretty much manure. Definitely manure. And I know this because I grew up in a farm town. So constantly smelled cow manure. When I was in grade school, I went to McKinley Elementary School in beautiful Ottawa, Illinois, and there was a way walking home to my house from school where I'd go by my friend Tom Jackson's house. And the Jacksons had a little farm, not a whole lot of property, but they grew some stuff, and they had chickens, and they had goats, and they had, I think, 2 or 3 donkeys, and a couple of horses, and a couple of cows. So a lot of my friends were farm kids. They belong, remember Future Farmers of America and 4-H? Yep, we had a 4-H fair every summer in my town. Lots of great pies at the 4-H fair. So yeah, I like getting my hands dirty. I don't like sweating though, and I actually broke into a sweat when I was outside. So if I look a little, I was working the back 40. Think about it's not so bad manure. It's newer, which is good, with a ma in front of it. George Costanza. George Costanza happens to be one of my favorite people in the world. Mark Reel says, "Hello, Michael. I can't seem to get to the show until about 3 minutes past the hour. Any suggestions? Yeah, wake up earlier. I go to my login, then Taxi TV and YouTube, but still am always late. How about, because I'm relatively clueless about that, you could just click the, oh no, you can't. I'll tell you what, Ariana will email you while the show is going on. She will look you up in the database and send you an email with some suggestions. Okay, move taxi emails in promotion to personal. There you go. Biff in Back to the Future hates manure. Pete Mason, we live in Wisconsin. Or as we used to say in Illinois, Wisconsin. It was amazing how many people put an N in the first half of Wisconsin, with plenty of dairy air. There you go. Go through the link on Facebook. Il Rasso says, I'm spamming the YouTube icon when it starts until it shows up on the main page. No idea. John Hemingway, when you live in Wisconsin, you're north of the Cheddar Curtain. How true, how true. Oh, man, you guys are funny. Okay, so now we're all here. We're all focused. We've gotten the tomatoes, the cow manure, and Bria, not necessarily in that order, out of the way. I want to read an email. I'm not going to mention a gentleman's name. He's not nasty or anything. He's got legit questions. He's from the UK, so I didn't want to call him. I did actually have a guy call me earlier today, or send an email that was all about publishers, and I don't like necessarily working with publishers. Why can't we just submit directly to music supervisors and keep 100% of the money rather than using a middleman? So I explained all that, and you guys know the drill. And after we talked for 10 or 15, first of all, he's a really nice guy, but after we talked for 10 or 15 minutes, he totally got it. And really appreciated that I called him, and I really appreciated his time and his good attitude, and very nice guy, and I hope we get to meet. Okay, let's read this one. Dear Taxi, I've seen the varying deal terms on your submissions, and I want to understand some things about them because the deals don't look that good compared with what I've signed in the past. So I don't know when the past is, so I'm flying a little bit in the dark on this email. Like I said, the guy's in the UK, so not that easy for me to call him. I guess he and I could do a Zoom or a Skype or something. But I figured I'd address it here on the show for the benefit of everybody, and that way we can just email him a link to this part of the show, and he can hear. It'll be like I'm talking directly to you, Matthew. No last name given, because I want to protect your identity. Anyway, to reiterate, Dear Taxi, I've seen the varying deal terms on your submissions, and I want to understand some things about them because the deals don't look that good compared to with what I've signed in the past. For example, I've signed songs to agents with a 30-70 split in my favor for sync fees, and many of these, I think, meaning the taxi deals are 50-50, which seems a lot. So let me address just that much of it right now, and then I'll go on to the other stuff. So, I'm sure that there are sync agents out there. Frankly, I'm a little befuddled by the whole sync agent thing. I know several of them, couple of them, three of them that I can think of off the top of my head are actually pretty close friends of mine, people I've known for, 5, 10, 15 years. I could call them at home, and they're friends. So they're certainly not, deceitful, bad business people or anything. But it's all of a sudden there used to be like 2 sync agency or sync agents, and now there are, I don't know, several dozen of them out there. It doesn't take much to be a sync agent. You basically hang up a shingle. Where it does take a lot more to be a music library. I mean, you've got to sign stuff, you've got to tag it, you've got to do the due diligence, all the stuff that we've talked about with during the 2 recent episodes with music libraries owners on the show. I think somebody spiked my Rockstar today. I'll have to check that out. If I go, you'll know why. Anyway, but the thing is, if the sync agent, and I'm not an attorney, remember, not an attorney. My mother was disappointed, but I am not an attorney, so I'm not giving legal advice here. I'm only giving information as I understand it. I could be right, could be wrong. But in the state of California, when you do something in the capacity of an agent in the entertainment industry, you in fact have to be licensed as an agent, like a talent agent for actors, actresses. You need to be licensed by the state of California. Be a real estate agent. You need to be licensed. I'm sure there are other types of agents, like a secret agent. That's what I want to be, as a secret agent. And for that, you need a license to kill, 007. You get my point. So there are all these people out there that are saying they're sync agents, and I'm sure that they're acting in an agent capacity where they know somebody who's a music supervisor, and they proffer some music over to that person, and if it gets picked up, then rather than them getting an income stream from the publishing, they just get a flat fee, which is usually a percentage that, to the best of my knowledge, runs between 30 and 50%. That's it. And that's from the sync fee. So sounds pretty good from your perspective. I don't have to give up any publishing. And I might only give up 30% of my income and, not 50% like I would on a typical music library deal. But here's the thing, is sync agents, because they're not regulated, I believe that there are varying degrees of professionalism within that little corner of the industry. And so you don't really know. There are some that are very good, some that are not very good, and probably many that are in the middle between not so good and really good. Excuse me. But because they're not taking a piece of the publishing, and there's no deal signed as far as it being non-exclusive or exclusive, I guess inherently on its face it's probably non-exclusive, but potentially you could have your music with several sync agents, and they're all pitching to the same thing. So it goes back to kind of like the non-exclusive library thing, but they haven't done their due diligence. Maybe some do, maybe some don't. Again, I can't speak about this as a 100% expert. But by virtue of the fact that virtually none of them that I'm aware of have ever registered themselves as a licensed talent agent in the state of California, to me, it kind of says something about their business practices. Although, like I said, I've got 2 or 3 friends that are sync agents that I know are hardworking, reputable people. So maybe that disproves my theory. Um, and Nick Monday said, and Nick, I don't want to make the whole episode about having a conversation back and forth between us because you are new here and we've talked about all this stuff till we're blue in the face, but I don't want you to feel excluded. But there are many, many, many episodes of Taxi TV that talk about this. The short version is forget everything you know about the old record industry or the old publishing industry as it related to the record industry. In the business of licensing music, and I'm not talking about Warner Brothers or Universal Music licensing a major act to a blockbuster motion picture. That's another thing unto itself. I'm talking about folks like us, independent, largely unknown people. And by the way, we've got Taxi members, many members that make a few extra thousand a year, a pretty decent number of members that make like $10,000 to $50,000 a year on the side. They've got like a day job and a family and stuff, but they still do music. And we've got several members that are over the six-figure line. A couple of members, or I don't know, 3 or 4 that come to mind right now that are like in that $150,000 to $300,000 a year range. So almost all that money, almost all of it, is made licensing little, what I call stupid little instrumental cues, and I mean that affectionately because they make really good money for our members. You turn on the Kardashians, Kim Kardashian, what's she trying to do? Get the cap. Here, demonstration. Get the cap off the bottle. Can't do it. My nails are too long. Do, 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 do. That kind of music. That is an instrumental cue. It got on that show because a production music library had 5 or 10 or 20,000 cues like that under different genres. They go into what's called a bin for video editors, who are the people that are largely picking that music and placing it in those shows. They are picking it, they're editing it, they're controlling the entrance and exit of that music, and then it gets approved by the executive producer, possibly a music supervisor as well. And it may only pay you pennies, it may only pay you a few dollars, it may pay you hundreds of dollars. The trick is to get thousands of these cues ultimately over a period of years into many production music libraries on what are largely 50-50 deals. And that is called planting a lot of seeds in a lot of gardens. And over time, nothing happens fast, but over time, those seeds will sprout. You will have a farm. There we are, back to the manure on the hands and the farm again. And that's how you can retire with $1 million in the bank. And I'm not exaggerating that number. We've covered that as well. If you were to do that, for a good portion of your professional life, and you start out only making like $1,000 in your first year, which is not unusual. If you do it for until your retirement age, you will be earning a 6-figure income on a regular basis by then. And even with like taxes, and I'm not an accountant either, but even with taxes and some spending taken out of that, if you're pretty good with managing your money, you will end up with $1 million or more in the bank. But that's a whole other episode, and we've done all this. Okay, Michael needs practice cues for Quarantini. So back to this guy's email. So I have mixed feelings about agents, and frankly, because it's the wild, wild west out there, I think we've worked with very few agents at Taxi, so we tend to work with libraries. Anyway, so Matthew, a 50-50 library deal is extremely typical. It is the norm. Again, it's not like the record company days of publishing deals. It's just a whole different animal. And the deals kind of range from, they might do a buyout with you where they're buying the publisher's share for, I don't know, let's say $200, $50, $150, $500 sometimes even $1,000. They buy the master recording, they buy the publisher's share, which I'm going to address in a minute because I think you may not be 100% clear on that. And basically, it's a 50-50 venture for the two of you. Sometimes when they do a buyout and they own the master, because you license the use of the master recording and you license the use of the composition, Sometimes when they do those deals where they give you cash up front, then you may not participate if they get a sync fee. So let's say they get a $4,000 sync fee, placing it in a big TV show. If they've done a buyout and given you cash up front, then you're probably not going to get half of that sync fee. However, many libraries will do an exclusive deal where they get the publisher share, which is half of every publishing dollar earned. You keep the 100% of the writer's share, and let's say they get that same $4,000. In that deal, the second deal I'm describing, you would then split the sync fee 50-50. There are non-exclusive deals, which means, I'm going to read the rest of your letter because that gets into that. Also, I want to understand the implications of them having 100% of the publishing. So again, they have 100% of the publisher's share. That's different than having 100% of the publishing. It's semantical. Is that a word? But it's a 50-50 deal. Think of every publishing dollar as there's 100% of the publisher's share and 100% of the writer's share. Those two things together make up 100% of the publishing, which is under the umbrella. What does it actually mean if we're talking money? So I think I just explained that if a dollar is earned, basically you get half and they get half. But if they give you money up front to buy out your master recording and your publisher's share, then you probably won't get half that money from the sync fees. I realize having 100% of the writer's share means that my PRO will pay royalties. You are correct, sir. But which is worth more, and should a writer give away 100% of this? I think by this you mean the publisher's share. Know that the companies that Taxi runs listings for, we vet them pretty darn carefully. These are real companies getting real deals, real placements for people. It's extremely rare that we will work with a new company that's untested in this circumstance. If we do something like that, it means that it was probably vice president of a big library that went to start their own thing. They know the business very well. They have the contacts. They know how to plug music, and they're professional, and we have a relationship with them, and they're starting a new company. So we will work with a new company in that circumstance. So if Taxi's hooking you up with this company, I think I've said this before publicly, in 28 years of doing business and literally working with thousands of different libraries over those years and companies in general, whether they're record labels or old school publishers, we've only had two companies that we've worked with out of thousands over 28 years where after we ran the listings, we went, oh crap, I wish we hadn't worked with that company. And I think in both cases, their deal was explained to us in one way, and that's the deal that they ran with initially. And then at some point, they decided to change their deal. They didn't notify us, so we didn't notify our members because we were in the dark, and then our members started complaining, hey, the deal you told us it was is not the deal that it is. So there you go. So 2 out of thousands, not so bad. So which is worth more? It's impossible to say. Look, most of the time when you put your music in somebody's catalog, the vast majority of that music is not going to make you a lot of money. Sometimes they'll make you no money. And you will find out after some period of time of doing this that it's called the Pareto Principle. How do you spell that? P-E-R-E-T-O, Pareto, I believe, or P-A-R-E-T-O, Pareto Principle, means that 20% of your income will come from, or 80% of your income will come from 20% of your music. The same thing is true in sales, generally speaking, if you're selling shoes or golf balls or manure, that 80% of your income will come from 20% of your customers. Well, our longtime members that are successful doing library music and sync placements have almost all told me that largely, they may have 500 pieces of music that are out there in 5 different libraries. So let's say 100 pieces of music in 5 different libraries each. And as it turns out, it's 80% of their income comes from 20% of those things. So that would mean 100 of their tracks are their most income producing. Doesn't mean that those are necessarily better than the other 400 tracks, or that those libraries maybe are better than the other libraries. It just means that for whatever reason, those pieces of music are more syncable. And that's definitely a made up word. More syncable means that more people on the music supervisor or editor end hear that piece of music and go, that works really well in this scene. So it may not be the most amazing piece of music in the world. Chances are it's probably not, but it's the right piece of music for the application. So, it's hard to say whether or not you're going to make out better by keeping the publisher's share, which means if you don't have a publisher or a library working for you, you're at a tremendous disadvantage because they all have people knocking on their doors. Remember, it's not like old school publishers where they go, wow, this is an amazing song. I'm going to send an email with this MP3 attached to everybody I know in TV land and tell them, I've got a great new song from this guy, and you should hear it. They don't do that. They don't plug songs like old school publishers that would hear a pop hit and go, okay, these are the 5 artists that would cut this type of song. It's the reverse. It's the customers, the end users, come to them and say, do you have anything like this? And that's why they like to stock up and have this stuff. So, by the way, there are publishers that will do some do like a 1-year reversion, some do a 3-year reversion, some do a 5-year reversion, which basically means that if they don't get your piece of music used in that prescribed amount of time, then you have the right to say, okay, you tried, thank you very much, you didn't get it synced anywhere, I'd like to get my rights back. So, there's a safety valve in some of those deals. But what our members have told us, what the library owners have told us, and what 28 years of experience has told me by running this company for that long, is that it's not a great thing to be precious about your material. Don't put too many hopes in one basket for one piece of material. The deal is get as many pieces of usable, syncable material made, get it into as many catalogs and various kinds of catalogs. Some of your stuff could go into exclusive catalogs, some could go into non-exclusive catalogs, and plant as many seeds and as many good gardens as you can, because that's how the big money is made, and it does take time. Now, you also say, on that point, if it's a non-exclusive deal, but they take 100% of the publishing, does that mean it's actually non-exclusive, like I can offer it to somewhere else too? If that company has taken publishing for it? And the answer is yes, Matthew, you can. Non-exclusive means that you can put it into a few or several or many different catalogs. They will retitle it. And now you're going, oh my gosh, they're going to take my song, I Love You, Debbie, and they're going to call it Debbie Loves Me Too, or I Love Deb, or whatever, and they may. But more often than not these days, what they're doing is they're putting, like, let's say there's a company called ABC Music Library, and they take your song, I Love You, Debbie, or your instrumental piece, and they put it in their catalog under a non-exclusive deal, meaning you can take it and put it elsewhere. They will then register that song as the new title will be ABC I Love You, Debbie. That way, if it shows up on a cue sheet or a music supervisor looks at it, they know that it came from ABC Music Publishing. Okay? So it's been retitled in that way. They could change the title to Debbie Loves Me instead of I Love Debbie. But my personal observation is more and more of them are starting to put some kind of code, usually as a suffix, in front of the title so that it's easily identifiable as having come from them. Now, that same piece of music could be, like I said, in several other catalogs. Catalog A might be ABC, I Love You, Debbie. Catalog B might be MM for Michael's Music, I Love You, Debbie. The third catalog might retitle it as TC, third catalog music, TCM, there you go, TCM, I Love You, Debbie. So now you've got that same egg with different Easter stuff painted on the outside of it, but it's still the same egg. It still has the same little yolk in the middle. It still has the same shell. It's the same piece of music, identical piece of music in multiple places. It could be that one TV show uses this library as a resource all the time. Another two TV shows use that other library as a resource all the time. And yet another reality show uses yet another library as a resource. Not every library has the same contacts, the same relationships, or the same opportunities for the music within their catalog. So you want to spread your bets around. With instrumental music in particular, because it's relatively easier to create a 90-second to 2-minute instrumental cue that you can probably bang out, assuming that it's not like a big, complex orchestral piece, but something like a tension drone or solo jazz cocktail piano. You can probably put one of those together, soup to nuts, in a matter of, 2 hours to 4 hours. So you could make many of those per week. So don't get precious about want to go, oh my gosh, I don't want to give up half of my publisher share or 100% of my publisher share, thereby meaning half of my publishing. I don't want to give that up. Give it up would be my advice. Or you know what? Let's not call it my advice. Let's say if I were doing it, that's what I would do. Because so what? I can go make 5 more of those tension cues. They can be a different chord progression. They could be different sounds. They could be a different mood. They could be a different kind of tension. One could be, a tension cue for a competition show like The Bachelor. Another one could be a tension cue for a CSI episode. Another one could be a tension cue for, like a dramatic tension cue for, an episodic drama. Wow, the Element says, I think I might finish 2 songs this year. No, you got to finish more than that. You can't be in the music business if you're not making music. That's your product. Just saying, if General Motors only stamped out 4 cars, they would be General Motors. They'd be out of business motors. I'm trying to get caught up on the chat room here. Peter Rahill had a question. Let me scroll back to that. If the paid name is changed from your original track, can you keep your original titled piece posted up on social sites like SoundCloud? I am not a music attorney and I am not a publisher, but my instinct tells me no, because we've had some library owners and a music supervisor tell us that people are less prone to use stuff that if it's out there in the wild, even if the track name is different, with the, music fingerprinting, someday that could come back, or audio fingerprinting, whatever they call it, that could come back to bite you on the butt. I wouldn't recommend it. Let's see. Bria mentioned dealing with quite a few irate or hostile taxi phone callers. That surprised me. What's their most common beef? They can't handle the quarantine gopher and fishing stories? Yeah, that's probably part of it. Could you imagine musicians tuning into this going, why is this guy talking about manure on his hands or gophers all the time? They don't seem to understand that this show, the Tuesday through Friday version, isn't necessarily educational. It's more about us just hanging out and shooting the breeze. But, maybe music stuff shows up. Maybe we're talking about poop. Yeah, we get far less irate phone calls now than we have in past years. I think because of things like Taxi TV and the Quarantini happy hours. Some people don't really understand how the music business works. First of all, they don't understand that Taxi is not a gatekeeper. They've been conditioned for so many years to hate gatekeepers. Taxi is just one more layer of gatekeeper. No, we're actually not. We are gate openers. We're enablers. But they don't necessarily see it like that because they've been kind of brainwashed for 5, 10, 20 years, as long as they've been making music. Those old wives' tales stick around. What else might tick them off? You can almost bet dollars to donuts that if we get somebody who's yelling and screaming and cursing and just losing it on the phone, and it's about a submission, I'll bet you anything that if we look at our internal database, chances are we just blasted out the results from a particular listing and they got a return on something that was a high dollar TV commercial listing or a big movie listing, something that had, between $5,000 and $100,000 sync fee on it. And they are absolutely certain that this song that they wrote 17 years ago, dated as it might be, is perfect because the listing said they're looking for patriotic songs, and one of the lines in that song had the words Uncle Sam in it. The song itself wasn't patriotic, but it did say Uncle Sam, so therefore it's patriotic now. And I can't believe that your screener's ears are so bad that he couldn't hear the potential in that. Well, it didn't really fit what the listing asked for, and we can't forward stuff where, it's a stretch and they've got to it did say Uncle Sam in the third line of the second verse, so yeah, I can use that. No, you can't. So they get really upset by that, and then this industry sucks, and your screener sucks, and you guys suck, and I'm going to go online and tell everybody that Taxi sucks, and you stole my money, and you ripped me off, blah, 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 blah. Been dealing with that kind of stuff pretty much every day for 28 years. And somehow we all still really like where we work. I don't really understand George Gillen's question. Cues are one thing, but songs are quite another. Why would anyone settle for less than a 50-50 deal? Just asking. When you say anyone settle, are you talking about why would any musician? I don't really understand that, George. If you can get some coaching, rephrase it, and I'll be happy to answer it. Could you please explain what typically happens if the library offers blanket agreements to its clients? This is a really good topic. How does that impact the composer? All right, I am so glad that you asked that. I didn't finish answering that guy's letter. I'll go back to it in a moment. This is an issue. So let's say that a library signs 5,000 pieces of music non-exclusively, and now they do a blanket. A blanket deal is when a library says to a show, and again, I'm going to say the Kardashians just because it's my favorite reference point, but let's say a reality show like the Kardashians cuts a deal with the library that we can use Michael's Music Library, which is non-exclusive and has 5,000 instrumental cues in it. Michael's going to give that bucket of music in digital form over to the music supervisor on the Kardashians. The music supervisor is going to go through the 5,000 tracks and pick out 2,800 that sound like they would be right for Kardashian episodes. They're going to break that out into files of tension cues, dramedy music, sad music, mysterious music, whatever the different folders and categories are. Then they put it into an electronic bucket that is called an editor's bin. And basically, editors sit at a workstation, whether they're working from home online or whether they're sitting in cubicles or edit bays somewhere, and they get to what's called a beat, which means part of a scene. And let's say that this beat is somebody falling down a flight of stairs. Okay, somebody stands at the top of the stairs and says, hey, and they go whoop, and they go beep, 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 head over heels down the stairs. And for that, you need a comedic cue. So the editor would then go into the comedic music folder, and they would start looking at the titles of this music, and they would pick one based on the title, probably because it kind of telegraphs that it's, if you saw a cue called Tumbling, you might listen to that one first. And they will sit there on audition cues, maybe just 2 seconds, 3 seconds, go, nope, not the right vibe, not the right vibe. Ooh, this one's got potential. They play it against picture. Nah, not that good. It's okay, I'll keep it on the side for a minute. Another one, no, another one, no. Ooh, this one, let's check it out. Oh, look at that, works great. They move it around, they chop it, they put it in, it's great. They move on to the next beat or the next scene. So, if that library did a blanket deal, which is an all you can eat, let's say that they pay $10,000 to the library owners, to Michael's Music Library. They give me a check for $10,000. That means they can use as much as they want all season long for that amount of money. Some libraries will insist that all that music ends up on a cue sheet, and therefore the writers still get paid, even though they don't get. Some libraries don't give you guys any piece of that $10,000 lump sum all you can eat payment they got. The reason is the libraries who use that business practice will tell you that it's just too hard to figure out what the proportions are. And I can understand that to some degree, but it's still not a great deal in my opinion. Let's say that they use Greg Carozza's cue for 12 seconds. And let's say that they use Mark Reel's cue for 46 seconds. And then let's say that they use Dan Weber's cue 3 times in an episode. The first time it was for 4 seconds. Second time is for 19 seconds. The third time it was for 1 minute and 12 seconds. So how does that library then calculate the proportionate amount of the $10,000 lump sum? Because you would have to do that for every episode for a whole season for every one of those cues. That's a lot of work. By the time they've done all that work, they're like, oh, this is way too much work. So basically what they do is they take the 10K and you guys don't see a penny of it. But the music should, in fact, make it to a cue sheet, so you are at least getting the back end from your PRO. Now, I've heard examples where libraries have done, you got to watch out for the, some of the royalty free or some of, just underline the word some of. Don't take this as a blanket statement about all of them. But there are some less good, less professional libraries out there that might do a buyout deal with you. Say, here you go, $50, and I get all the rights to that little cue. And you go, what the hell? I made $50 for a couple hours worth of work. Sure, take it. It could go into one of those deals where it ends up being in a bunch of episodes of TV, but because it was that kind of buyout royalty-free thing, it may not make it. It may not be required to go to a cue sheet, therefore you get zip. Again, all these things have variables. They all have varying degrees. I mean, I'm not telling you anything false, but somebody will say, well, I heard about it, blah, 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 and that's true. It's like many of these things can happen. Edmund, hang on to that question for me because I want to finish this guy's email. Finally, I noticed on one of the latest listings that it says that it's exclusive with an unusual twist, that if the company licenses your music under a blanket deal, here's what we're talking about, you'll get income. If they license it for a YouTube video, you'll get income. Not all music libraries pay you for things like that. Does that mean that on many of the deals, the companies will be making money from our music, but won't be paying us anything for it? It does happen. It doesn't happen most of the time. Okay, so I can't say it will never happen. I can't say that 100% of the time that somebody's not going to cut a blanket deal like I just described, where you may not get paid under the blanket. That library that put that language in there is owned by a couple of composer friends of mine that are highly ethical, hard-working people that have both made a crap ton of money on their instrumental cues and some songs over many, many years. They're the real deal. They're expanding. They just started a new imprint or a new catalog, and they're expanding it. And because they're just treating the composers like they would like to be treated. Basically, their deal is if we make a buck, you make half of it, no matter what form that comes in. So that's a pretty good deal. All right. Somebody had a question. I said, Edmund had a question. So he was the most recent one that I noticed. And we've only got 5 minutes. Wow. Time flies when you're talking about cow manure. All right, Edmund, repost that thing before I answer Pierre's question, which is staring me in the face. And Pierre, repost yours in a minute. I'll answer it. Okay, Edmund says, I'm finding it difficult to explain to a musician friend the difference between an instrumental and an instrumental cue. Other than structure, is there anything I could add? Yeah, I can make it really simple. Show him this. Look, talk to Lasco. He knows this stuff. I know this one. An instrumental is generally laid out structurally more like a song, like an intro and a verse, and probably a B verse or a pre-chorus, then a chorus, and then back to another verse, and then another pre-chorus, and then another chorus, and then a bridge, and then into the final chorus, which might repeat 2 or 3 times. An instrumental, no cue. Instrumental is basically that with the vocal pulled out. But as I've said before in other episodes, if you just pull the vocal out, it's going to sound like a rhythm track, because now it's got chord changes in a fully produced track, but it doesn't have a melody. So if you were going to do that, then I would add back in what I call melody light. Not the full melody, because as I've said many times, it will sound like 101 strings or frothy and Teicher or elevator music, by adding back what the vocal. Just think of Paul McCartney's song or the Beatles song Yesterday, when you've heard it in an elevator and they've got, like an oboe playing the vocal melody. It sounds hokey, right? But if you take a song and take the vocal melody out and just replace it with like whatever note would land on the downbeat, excise 75% of the notes out of the melody, and you've got what I would call melody light. That's an instrumental. An instrumental cue is generally shorter in timeline, and it's laid out differently. It's probably bangs right into the red meat, which I've explained before, is more like a chorus. And then it drops somewhere in the middle, probably not a hard, fast rule, but probably it builds up, and then breaks down, goes into like a middle 8 or a middle 16, which is kind of like a bridge. And then it comes out of that and it builds up, and then boom, goes for the big finish with a stinger ending on it, which means landing on the downbeat, most likely, landing on the tonic, and doing ta-da as an exclamation point. So there you go. Play your friend that, and Edmund, he will thank you for it, I hope. Edmund says, so instrumental songs with no lyrics, just a melody light. 2 minutes left. Pierre had a question. And then tell your friend join Taxi so he can get feedback on his music and start doing something with it. Yeah, Cass brings up a good point. Edit points. And an edit point can be a full, like a half note rest. It could be a whole note rest. It could be a quarter note rest, or it could be no rest at all. It could just be a boom, like a big hit, or something definitive like a kick drum or a snare drum. Just something that's very legato and floaty is really hard to edit, whereas something that's got some rhythm to it or clear sections makes it easier to edit. Since 2018, Pierre's had 212 submissions on 150 songs, 45 of which have been forward, had 15 deals, no placement. Does it look normal or average to you? You think placements are near? Pierre, I would love to tell you, yes, placements are near. It'll just make you open your email up more frequently than you probably already are. I think anybody who has been a successful Taxi member will tell you it's not guaranteed, but it's pretty close to inevitable. Just keep feeding, the pipeline. Don't get discouraged. Don't think, oh, nobody out there likes my music. It just means that your music has probably been listened to by music supervisors who got it from libraries that you signed the deals with, and they went with something else because it just worked better in the scene. Once again, for the umpteenth time, they're not going, wow, this is an amazing song. They're looking for, is it a right song? I mean, they would love an amazing song that's also the right song, but if they had to choose between an A+++ amazing song that doesn't work in the scene and a B+ song that does work in the scene, they will take the B+ song every single time. Mark Reel says, this was a great show, Michael. Well, thank you, Mark. We're in the red zone. Oh, no, we're a minute over. Okay, tell you guys what. I will go 5 minutes long today. We will let the show run till 5:05. Right now, Ariana's going, don't do it, Michael. Don't do it. It's her first day flying solo. She's got plenty of work on her plate. Sorry, Ari. Ooh, that rhymes. Got 10 songs waiting. Yep, just keep filling the pipeline, Pierre. There's really nothing more that you can do. You'll get better with every new one that you make, and you'll be filling the pipeline. And like I said, 20% of them will be the ones that ultimately make you money. Okay, I'm going to give you guys 30 more seconds to come up with another question. Martin Gravel says, yay, bonus time. Ron Schultz says, I agree. Great show. Wow. You guys are so easy to please. I can talk about cow manure and you guys love it. Write, submit, forget, repeat. Thank you, Mark Reel, for mentioning that. Our members came up with that phrase. It's like, what is it? Wash, rinse, repeat. Well, our thing is write, submit, forget, repeat. Richard Carr Piano says, have a great night. Okay, thank you. From manure to serious topics, loved it. How long did Steve and Baird take to become successful? I'm guessing, and this is a little bit of an educated guess because I know him pretty well. First of all, we've got 2 or 3 videos of him being interviewed on Taxi TV, so I'm sure he answers the question there. But from memory, I would say that he started getting placements. Remember, he wanted to be like a country star or a rock star or something, and then saw the light at a road rally, went, I'm going to do instrumentals. And he's definitely in that 6-figure club. Nicest guy. And hard-working guy. I would say it took him a couple of years to have some income. Took him 3 years to go, okay, this is going to be a thing. And by the time he got to his 4th or 5th year, he was making substantial income. I think he's only been with Taxi for probably 7 or 8 years, and he's definitely over the 6-figure mark. All right. Also, I want to mention, don't miss tomorrow's show. I'm going to do something that I've never, ever, ever done in 10 years of doing Taxi TVs. Mark Reel got Robin's ebook. It's great. I'm glad you got it. Those books are like having, Robin sitting at your side while you're working. Tomorrow, I'm going to have my friend Rich Ezra join me on the show. Rich has been in the music industry for about as long as I have. On the record and publishing side, he knows more good industry dirt than anybody I know. He really keeps up on much more than I do about like the inner workings of, well, this major corporation is buying a label, therefore the president's going to get bounced. If the president gets bounced, that means the A&R department who got hired by the president will probably get bounced. So you can expect a totally new crew at this company next year. Therefore, keep your eyes open because they're going to be looking for new music and not want to work the music that the old crew did. He's got that kind of insight. He was also one of the original Taxi screeners, along with Scott Baxter with the original 7. It's like the 7 astronauts or whatever it was at NASA. Tomorrow's episode two old guys will school you. Yeah, Rich is so knowledgeable on that stuff. Frankly, I don't keep up on all that stuff because I find it to be a little petty. But there's gold in them there hills if you want to mine it. Um, the mystery guest. No, I'm going to tell you his name. Anyway, so that's it. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for hanging out today on another exciting episode of Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. Woo! Bye-bye, you guys. Have a good night. Oh, yeah.